Now, I will say, before the gag order was placed, the media was able to report a little bit more information regarding that cell phone and the cell phone records, which gives us a clue as to what exactly that evidence connected to him might be. Now, remember, when Alysia first confessed, she told the investigators about that incident when Ivan began physically harming Athena, and how that happened around midnight, and then he left their home at around 1 a.m. Well, his phone records show that he didn't arrive at the property in Rush Springs until about 4:45 or 5:15 a.m. in that window. But from their address to Rush Springs, as I said, it's only a 30-minute drive. So that leaves a huge amount of time unaccounted for. What was really happening between when he left at 1 a.m. and when he arrived in Rush Springs at 4:45 a.m.? What was happening in that window of time? Unless, of course, Alysia had been lying, and they had actually both spent those hours coming up with a plan and coming up with a story together. We already know she was lying about how Athena had actually died, so who's to say she wasn't lying about the timestamps either? It seemed so far, at least in my opinion, and to me, like Alysia has had more involvement but has been trying to downplay it, trying to blame Ivan for everything. However, I want to know what you think about all of that. But anyway, I'm assuming that the evidence was that his cell phone placed him at the crime scene and at the burial site. However, there still could be more evidence, and important evidence that would make them want to have a gag order, such as confessions, pictures, videos. We just aren't aware of all of that yet. Then, in December of 2023, the charges against both Alysia and Ivan were changed. Ivan had originally been charged with first-degree murder, but after the autopsy report came back and it showed that the cause of death was not from physical abuse, it was downgraded to second-degree murder. He's also being charged with child neglect for Athena as well as unlawful removal of a body. Now, instead of Alysia's charges being downgraded, she's now facing first-degree murder charges, as well as obstruction of an officer for lying about what happened to Athena on Christmas night. And the reason for Alysia's charges being changed from neglect to first-degree murder is that the prosecution believes that she was the main cause of Athena's death. There's still not a whole lot of in-depth information out there, but new information is circulating that Alysia, unfortunately, took a direct play right out of, Vander Ark's book. If you remember Shonda Vander Ark, the freaking monster mother who made her child eat hot sauce and all of this stuff. Because it's believed that she would actually keep Athena locked inside of a closet for extended periods of time. And she purposefully didn't feed her, and she didn't give her proper nutrition, and we also obviously know that she didn't give her the proper health care that she needed. Which, speaking of Monster Vander Ark, and if you aren't familiar with that case, massive trigger warning, I will link it for you, but it is horrific and god-awful. But it's important to note that there were rumors in the media circulating that Athena was on the autism spectrum. Even now, over a year later, that bit of information was never confirmed or denied. But in the initial search for Athena, the investigators did release that she had limited verbal skills. Which, that of course doesn't necessarily mean that she was on the spectrum. I'm not sure with her lack of health care if she would have ever even had the opportunity to be diagnosed. But also, she clearly wasn't in school, she wasn't in pre-K, she wasn't getting attention, so I think her limited vocabulary could be attributed to that as well. I don't think you have to automatically jump to autism. Now, due to these amended charges, their preliminary hearings were waived, and all in all, everything was kept as quiet as possible in this case due to Alysia and Ivan's lawyers wanting a fair trial.